Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session today. For in the interest of time, we're going to start as more people are joining us. And the session is also recording. We'll be able to share this recording afterwards as well. So welcome to the session once again. Thank you for being here to this week's PMP review session. And my name is Nelson. I'm originally from Kenya, but I'm based out of Dubai. I've been with PMI for about 6 years now. This is one of the programs that we are running to support you as you prepare for your exams, for the PMP exam. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now, but this year was when we really pushed it a lot, and we've done it for all the quarters this year to support you to be able to pass your PMP exam. So we've partnered with our authorized training providers, and one of them is here today, who will be taking us through this session, and we'll cover the ground rules. Everything around virtual teams, means ground rules, mentorship, emotional intelligence as well. I encourage you to just interact as much as you can. We'll have a session where you get to ask questions. Please feel free to raise your hand, or we'll unmute you to be able to ask a question. For now, on the chat, if you can just mention where you're from and when you're sitting for your PMP exam as well. If you can post that on the chat, but I'll pass it on to Loom. Loom is from Nigeria. She is a certified trainer, and she's going to take us through the session today. Over to you.
Hi, Nelson. Thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening or good afternoon, depending on what part of the continent you're joining us from. Welcome to this session of our PMP prep. I hope we'll all get towards writing our exams and becoming project management professionals. So as Nelson mentioned, I'm a project manager, human resource strategist and specialist, a mom, a wife. So you can see that every life of my life is being project managed because I have projects running all over. Yeah, and also a trainer and a facilitator. So let's just have in the chat where you're all coming from. I can see a lot of people on the call. Steve, Sally, Jane, Joseph, Brighton, Manuela, John Paul, Eunice, Abdullahi, Paul, Guilford. Just you can send an emoji so we're sure that you can hear us, and you can type in the chat where you're joining us from. Thank you, Abdullahi. Oh, wow, we have people from Accra, 2 people from Accra. Okay, when are you guys inviting us to Accra? Oh, we have 3. Eunice 2 is from Accra. Oh, Texira has a question. Oh, okay. It's clapping for us. Thank you, Texira. Oh, I can see Ivory Coast. Oh, Nelson, I can see your cousin in the house. We have Jane from Kenya, have John Paul from Uganda. We can see NBF from Liberia. We can see Abdullahi from Somalia. Oh, wow. Somebody from Dar es Salaam, Dagaga. You can see Elizabeth from Nigeria. Oh, Brighton from South Africa. Sally. Hi, Sally. Sally's joining from Nairobi, sitting for the exams on the 2nd of December. Okay, that's great, Sally. We wish you all the best. Paul from Somalia. Welcome, everybody, and thank you all for joining this session. Oh, hi, Soliwe from South Africa. I hope I didn't murder your name. That's how it's been pronounced. Welcome. Okay, so without taking a lot of your time, because I know we're all busy people here, we're going to begin the class. And as Nelson mentioned, today we're going to be speaking on a couple of things around virtual teams, team norms, emotional intelligence, mentoring, training, and just generally engaging as stakeholders. So we're going to begin from team formation. I'm sure from previous webinars, um, we've gone through the cycle of team formation. There was this guy, he said that teams go through 5 different stages. At first, it was 4: the forming, the storming, the norming, performing, and then they added the last stage, which was the adjourning. Team formation usually happens at the beginning of every project. So once we have made our business case, we've agreed that, okay, we actually need this project, yeah? So it aligns with the strategy of our organization. And we've said that, yes, this makes sense. We are agreeing that we're going to invest this amount to carry out this project. We then decide to form our teams after our project charter has been developed, has been signed, has been approved. We go into team formation, especially in the predictive approach of carrying out projects. In the adaptive, team formation happens before the project begins or before we actually plan for the project, because the team comes together to help with the requirements gathering and all those kind of things, to be able to tell you, since they're the domain experts, to be able to say that, okay, this is actually what your project should look like. This is what you're supposed to do to get the results that you want. And this is how long it's going to take for you for the resources you need. That is how it happens in the adaptive approach. But in the predictive approach, once we have an idea and we have clarity on what we want to do, we have our scope statement and everything, and clarity on our requirements, and we create our team, you know, and the team goes through team formation. So as project manager, you identify the different skill sets that you need on your project, the different skills you're going to need. How do you get them? You get them from the organization? Do you need to hire, recruit people? What kind of people do you want to get? Generalizing specialists, T-shaped staff, or just general subject matter experts who are going to come and get the job done for you. And once you have brought all these people together, then they have to go through the 5 stages of team formation. So they come together. The first stage is forming, where they are all excited to be part of the team to get the job done. And then they move into the next stage, which is storming. At that point, people start realizing that, oh, because Sally is smiling all the time, she's not that nice, you know, or everybody's like, oh, Soliwe, he was so happy when we joined, but he likes doing stuff like this. So I'm supposed to get used to the fact that this is how Soliwe does things. Or you say, Frida, she's very bossy. So people start understanding their team members. They start clashing. There's a lot of conflict. You know, people are confused, or not really confused, but they're concerned because, well, the person I was smiling with on the first day is actually not who I'm seeing now. I'm seeing a different side of them, and it's irking me, it's kind of confusing me. That is the storming stage. But the good thing about that is that it helps you to be able to learn about your team members. And once you've understood them, then it's smooth sailing from there. So in as much as we advise that we should have that storming where there's conflict and all that, and we want to know who we're working with, we also advise that the storming stage should not linger for a long time. People should get to know their team members so that they can move on to the next stage, which is the norming stage, where things start becoming normal. We started understanding each other, so it's easier for us to work together. We start achieving some goals. You see that performance is increasing instead of dropping, and then from the norming stage, we go into the performing stage where we're fully understood each other, we're working seamlessly, we're delivering back to back, we don't have issues. Sometimes you as a project manager starts feeling that you're not that useful, because your team is on autopilot. They're doing everything they need to do. So it looks like you are really not that relevant. And at that point, you're just basically giving oversight because your team is performing the way they're supposed to. form, and then we get to the final stage, which was added quite recently, at least more recently than the others, which is the adjourning. This is not a very happy stage because at this point, we have been able to deliver, we've overperformed, we've delivered the project, and now it's time to go our separate ways.
Sorry.
No, Barry,
I
the screen is not changing because I'm still giving a background before we get into what we're going to
okay.
be doing today. So no, the screen is not changing yet. All right, thank you. So yeah, the journey, everybody goes their different ways. These are the 5 different steps of team formation. It's very important that we understand how we form our teams before we even go into how we want to engage these teams, what we have that drives our teams, like our team norms, which is the first thing we're going to start talking about during this session, and then how we want to manage the different challenges that happen in our teams, the different types of teams that we have, how we want to engage them, how we want to um, motivate them, and all those things that come with managing a team. So let's go into team norms. So once we've formed our team, we can't just go about doing anything because we're a team. We need to have agreed behaviors, ground rules that guide us and help us to work together as a team. And that is why every team that is formed on every project comes together to create a team norms. It's not something that the project manager does and then tells everybody that, okay, this is how you're supposed to act. No, team norms are formed by the team together with the project manager. It doesn't matter if it's predictive, it doesn't matter if it's adaptive. They come together, create these rules and behaviors that help guide them as a team to work together. Purpose is to ensure that collaboration between the team is smooth and also to avoid any confusion. So we have norms that speak to communication. For example, what is the response times for the communication? If you are asked a question or if something is requested for you, how long do you need to, to be able to respond? Is it within 24 hours? Is it within 8 hours? Is it within 4 hours? All that is captured. How do we want to communicate? Is it via text? Is it via WhatsApp? Is it via email? Should everything be face to face? All those rules are agreed upon. Let's talk about meetings. How many meetings do we want to have? When do these meetings happen? What is the frequency? When do they start? When do they end? How long should they be? And what are the modalities for carrying out these meetings? Should every meeting have an agenda, a facilitator, and all that? So all those are what makes our team norms, from the communication, how we communicate to the meetings, to how we make decisions. Is it one person who does the decisions, or do we have to vote? Or is it majority wins the vote? How do we want to make decisions on the teams? How do we want to solve conflict? Do we resolve it privately or try to resolve it privately? And if it doesn't work, we escalate, or did that anything that happens, we need to run and go report to the project manager so he can solve it. How do we want to go about solving conflict? What is the quality of work that we want to do? These are these are the agreed behaviors. It's not as if they are laws, so they're not laws, they are not rules that you must do. No, they're just those things that help us to work together as a team. It's just like in your house, you have house rules. My mom will usually say, once you come indoors, take off your shoes. It's not a law, even though in Africa it's kind of like a law, yeah. But those are just norms in our house. When you want to climb on the carpet, don't climb with shoes. If you use the bathroom, clean it, and all those kind of things. So that is what constitutes the team ground rules, the team norms, you know. And every team comes together to create these rules and these norms. Sorry, these ground rules and these norms. And after they have agreed on everything that they want to do, they document this in a document called Team Charter. You can see on the screen, it says it is a document, electronic or paper, or a poster of the ground rules created together by the team. important that you understand that this is created together by the team. It is also very important that you understand that team charter is different from project charter. A lot of times people feel it's the same thing. You need to be able to understand the difference between them. Team charter is created by the team together and it helps them to be able to perform properly. Meanwhile, the project charter is something completely different from it. These kind of questions will come in your exams. And if you do not know the difference, and you just quickly answer because of the time frame, you may pick the wrong thing. So please understand the difference. So on the screen is an example of what a team charter looks like. I hope everybody can see my screen. I'm just going to try to zoom in so you can see everything that is captured there. You can see the team name. You can see how long they're going to be together. That's how long the duration of the charter will exist. You can see the number of team members. I need 12 time commitments. You can see the scope of work, everything that we're supposed to be working on as a team. You can see key milestones and timelines, resource budget. You can see the project team list, everybody's name. You can see their different roles and their responsibilities. And you can see the different guidelines with respect to different things. For example, communication, conflict management, and all that. So this is an example of what a team charter looks like. However, we all know that as project managers, tailoring is your best tool. So when you find yourself in any organization, ask if they have a template, if prefer template that they want to use for these things. And if they do not have, then you can go ahead to create your own. So apart from having ground rules that help us to keep us grounded and to give us direction on how to act as a team, we need to understand that communication is very key for any team to succeed. Not just any type of communication, but effective communication. As a team, you need to effectively communicate. What does that mean? Exactly. You need to be able to communicate in different ways. Different teams communicate in different ways. There are the teams that communicate verbally. There are some who communicate written in a written form. There are some people who use body language. You should be able to understand that. You should be able to read cues from people's faces, from their bodies to see if there's tension around. You should be able to read the room. These are all different means of communications. And that is why part of an effective team charter is to make decisions as a team about how, when, and why we will communicate with each other. What are the shared expectations? So all this is captured in our team charter, and that's why it is very important. So most teams are successful by working together, executing work, solving problems, and producing solutions. The only way you can do that is by communicating effectively. Different types of communications are used on different types of teams. But before we go into that, let's look at the different types of teams that we have. So we have two different types of teams. We have our co-located teams and our virtual teams. A co-located team is a team that is found in the same physical location. So for example, if we have, we're working on a project and let's say that project is domiciled in Lagos, Nigeria, everybody resumes at the same office, gets the work done. That is a co-located team. Meanwhile, a virtual team is a group of people who have the same goal, probably the shared goal, like project goal, and they fulfill their roles, but they do not have to meet face to face because they are in different locations. So the only way they can come together to work together is by coming together virtually using different tools like teleconferencing tools, different collaboration tools like emails, Slack, Jira, all the rest. For example, we're all on this call and we're having this class now. We're a virtual team. We could use that example because we're in different places. We can see people from Somalia, can see people from South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, you know, uh, different places. That makes us a virtual team. And even though most organizations, well, best practice is going to tell you that it's better to have a co-located team because it makes interaction very easy. The chances of bonding are way, 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 way better. Because when you see somebody face to face, you get used to that person. You can have discussions, meaningful discussions with them. You can talk about other things apart from work, and you're able to build a bond with them. You know, and a lot doesn't get lost in translation because you see these people all the time. But then that doesn't mean that virtual teams too are not successful or important, because they do have their own advantages. Imagine that you need a particular skill and that person is in Germany and you're in Tanzania. And you just look at the cost of bringing that person from Germany to Tanzania is way higher. And you're like, but we don't need you physically here. It's not like you're in manufacturing or it's a construction site where you need to put blocks. We can actually meet online, work on documents online, have a shared drive, do Zoom calls and all that, and we'll still get the work done. So why not have a virtual team? So virtual teams are advantageous because you can get better skills at a lower cost. You don't need to worry about the cost of relocation, relocating them, relocating their families, and all that. And also it provides work-life balance. Anyway, to be fair, that is a bit because I found out that when you work online, you actually work more than if you sit in an office. But that's just me. Yeah. I don't know. You can share in the chat if you've ever had that. But yeah, apart from that, it relies highly on technology and effective communication. Again, because you do not see these people and the only thing that brings you together is work, it makes bonding quite difficult. Imagine that I am virtually connected to Sally. We're going to be talking about what brought us together, which is probably work. But maybe if I saw her at the office, we're going to bond over, oh, we're women, we have kids, we have our husbands, we're going to talk about something. But online, nobody's going to leave their houses and come online to come start just, talking about all those things. You just come and focus on what brought you there. So bonding is quite challenging. It's not like it can't happen, but concerted effort has to be made towards that to ensure that it actually happens. And it's important that as a project manager, you do not only understand how to run physical or co-located teams, but also how to manage virtual teams. You need to constantly check on the different people who are on your virtual teams. This is to ensure that we run away from the risk of isolation. So you get so invested in the work that you start feeling like, oh, it's just me and my computer. That could be demoralizing sometimes. I'm sure there's some people on this call who had to do virtual or remote jobs, and sometimes you just get exhausted and you're like, man, I'm tired of looking at the computer. It's like I'm not talking to anybody. The only thing you're seeing is please find attached or sequel to or based on the mail trail, that could be frustrating sometimes. So these are some things that come with virtual teams, and it's important that as a project manager, you're able to relate with your virtual team members and ensure that everybody has clear understanding of what the project is supposed to be about, and everybody is constantly being reminded of what the project goals are and what their investment, what their role or responsibility on the project is, what their expectations are, what is expected of them as part of the team. A lot of times it's very difficult for us to manage performance because, well, you do not see these people. For example, you can send an email, you need something, and the person will only respond to you 24 hours later, which is where ground rules and team norms come in to ensure that we're able to react or respond to communication, especially because I can't walk up to your desk and tell you that, okay, why are you not responding? I need this now. That's where ground rules come in to be able to enforce some of these things. But again, as a virtual team, if you do not see me and you can't talk to me, if you call me and I don't pick up my phone, how do you enforce that? So these are some challenges that come with having a virtual team. There's also the part of diversity, a language barrier. There's also the time factor. So imagine me in Nigeria now, it's about 6 something, trying to speak to somebody in let's say Dallas. They're on a different time frame. Or imagine me coming to work at 7, trying to talk to somebody in Japan. They're on a different time zone. So those are different challenges. And once you have your virtual teams, you need to be able to find a way to ensure that you can manage all these different timelines. You need to be able to ensure that there is a proper language that you can use to communicate with everybody so that you don't face the issue of a language barrier where you're explaining something, but because the person doesn't understand what you're saying, it becomes a problem for you and for the project. There are different countries who have different public holidays. For example, we might be celebrating Salah in Nigeria, and in another country, they don't know what that is because they are probably not a Muslim country, or they don't know those things, So, or you might be working with somebody in India and they are celebrating one of their feasts. And it's not a public holiday in Nigeria, and you're wondering why the person is not at work. So those are things that you're supposed to anticipate and be able to manage. Also, was spoken about bonding is a major challenge when it comes to virtual teams. So it's up to you as a project manager to have different team bonding activities, that you're able to carry out with your team members. You can also have situations whereby you have touch base one-on-one with each of your team members so that they do not feel isolated. They know that there's somebody there who is really concerned about them. I've worked on virtual teams before where I will have one-on-ones. Everybody has their day when we have a one-on-one. And I don't start with, okay, what's the deliverable for today? I'm like, hello, how you doing? I know their kids' names. I know their spouses. For the first 5 minutes, we just have chit-chats, discuss, lay the ground, the environment, make it comfortable, and then we get into work. These people need to understand that you care about them. You need to ensure that the psychological safety before you go ahead. So apart from doing all these, communication technology is a very key tool that can help you when managing your virtual teams, especially when it comes to communication. Communications is key. And you need to make use of all the different tools that you have to ensure that you communicate properly. You can use virtual task boards. You need to promote transparency. You need to ensure that everybody understands there's clarity. People understand their roles, what they're supposed to do. You should also be able to empower your teams. Ensure that you have the right technology, the right tools to use, the right collaborative tools. Is it Slack we're using? Is it Trello? Is it Jira? Is everybody trained in it? Do they know how to use these apps to ensure that we collaborate properly? You know, do we have Microsoft Teams where we can make use of all the different tools on it? For example, calendars, so that everybody's calendar is synced and we can meet up. When we say we have a meeting, people are not wondering like, oh, I didn't know there was a meeting. We have proper document storage. There's OneDrive where there's a project environment. We've put all the documents there, and if somebody needs something, they just need to go there. They don't need to be asking, can you kindly send me this document, and all that. It makes work very easy. We also have video conferencing tools which help us to be able to have a semblance of face-to-face discussions. You can use Zoom, you can use Microsoft Teams, you can use Google Meet. There are so many of them which could be very helpful. You need to understand the needs of your virtual. That's the only way you can ensure that they are invested in what they're doing. There's the right level of collaboration, and they do not feel like they're not part of a team. You can't afford to focus on an individual. You need to always make it about the team. So you need to promote transparency, ensure that everybody sees what they work visibility. Everybody can see what everybody is doing. Everybody can see what is expected of them. Everybody needs to know what they are doing and what is expected of them at every point in time. Project goals, the purpose, the objectives need to be clear so that everybody is in tune with that and they can get the job done on time. So you can see, for you to effectively engage your virtual team members, you need to ensure that there is a firm and proper team dynamics. Everybody understand, everybody first of all knows who their team members are and what the reporting lines are, who they're supposed to meet for what. There needs to be proper transparency, work visibility. We have different tools we can use. You have virtual Kanban boards, you have different collaborative tools that you can use. Please ensure that there is transparency. Everybody can see everything, they understand. It helps them to have trust in you as a project manager. It helps to build their trust. Also, it's important that you make use of your RASI chat, the responsible party, accountable consulting, and informed chat, as RASI. I'm sure we've had it on one of the different webinars that we've attended. You need to have that, and everybody needs to know what they are responsible for. You need to ensure that there's proper accountability. So people are not saying, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do. I wasn't aware because that's one of the highest things we hear on projects. I wasn't aware. So to ensure that you're not hearing that, you need to ensure that everybody understands what they're supposed to be doing, you know. And please, we need to communicate effectively. Doesn't matter if it's us providing feedback, if it's us providing instructions, ensuring that the instructions are clear. We need to ensure that those things actually. So a lot of everything that was said are some virtual team best practices that we could use to manage our our virtual teams. A lot of times, and I know some of us on this call have felt it because I've also felt it while working in a virtual team. It's easy for you to get lost in the work, not have any meaningful human connections, and so feel isolated. you know it's important that you, as a project manager, use all your power skills to be able to manage this and ensure that your team members do not feel isolated. They feel like they are part of something bigger, because when people feel they're part of something bigger, then they invest their time and energy into it. Again, we will repeat this. Do not focus on individuals, focus on shared commitments. When you make it about teamwork and shared commitments, then people are open to collaborating and getting work done as a team. But if I feel that I'm going to be recognized as an individual, I won't see any reason why I should work with other people when I can have all the glory by myself. This instills a sense of shared commitment within a team. So I'm going to quickly play a video on virtual teams before we move on to the next topic.
Welcome to the Project Management Institute Spotlight Series. In this presentation, we'll turn the spotlight on virtual teams. You're leading a project team with team members who are located across the globe. Given the distance between team members, cultural and language barriers, and the challenge of finding times everyone is available to communicate, you feel the project team lacks cohesion and a sense of unity. You don't want this to have a negative impact on the project, but you aren't sure how to resolve the many issues facing the team. Fortunately, there are some strategies you can use to foster a strong sense of unity, even in widely dispersed teams. Given the current business trends of an increasingly global economy, telecommuting, and geographically dispersed teams, these types of obstacles are likely to appear in other projects, so your overall communication plan needs to address them. But what are the obstacles, and how can you overcome them? Unfortunately, there are many, and they can change based on the makeup of individual teams. The challenges of virtual team communication can be divided into three main categories. The first is logistics, which includes time zone differences, technology required to communicate, network access, and so on. The second is the lack of nonverbal communication, especially when virtual teams are limited to conference calls, screen sharing, emails, and instant messaging. The third is accurately measuring the engagement of other team members, or how each person feels about his or her work, the workplace, and other coworkers. If you fail to manage these three key factors, or if you manage them poorly, the result will be vague communication practices, lack of trust, reduced productivity, and low morale. Fortunately, there are several key strategies you can use to address these problems. First, try to schedule face-to-face meetings whenever possible. This might take the form of an in-person kickoff meeting. Hopefully, some of your team can travel if you have the budget for it. Most likely, however, This means using video conferencing. The goal here is to encourage team members to establish social bonds and learn to trust one another. For that to happen, the team needs to visually interact on a regular basis. Next, set expectations up front. For example, tell your team how meetings will be scheduled to accommodate people across various time zones. Define acceptable communication practices such as only one person talking at a time during conference calls and identifying themselves. Another expectation could be response time. For example, all emails should be acknowledged within 24 hours, or voicemail and instant messages should be returned in 60 minutes or less for people within set time zone groups. The more specific you can be, the easier it will be for your project team to know if they are meeting your expectations. Team members should also take some time to get to know each other. At the beginning of each meeting, set time aside to have group conversations about personal topics. Experiment with diverse subjects to get everyone involved in the discussion. If you make the effort to get to know your project team, team members are more likely to follow your lead and do the same with each other. Another important strategy is to emphasize team building. In a traditional office setting, a lot of spontaneous conversations take place in the break room, during lunch, or even walking around the office. Virtual teams don't have these encounters. So, as the project manager, you have to compensate by providing opportunities whenever you can to build your team. For example, before the team meets for the first time, assign each person the task of introducing another team member to the group. Or once the team gets to know each other, play a game of two truths and a lie. This involves each team member listing three statements about him or herself and the group trying to figure out which one is a lie. It leads to a lot of laughter, which helps the team feel connected. And that's how to build strong teams even when people rarely see each other. Thanks for using the PMI's Spotlight on Virtual Teams. For more information about the Project Management Institute's certifications, membership, and services, visit our website at www.pmi.org.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Did everybody not watch the video? Because Cookie says no video playing.
It
Can you
worked
just type
well.
out?
Maybe we can get thumbs
Okay.
up from everyone that watched it. Okay.
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 Seems the
Thank you
majority
for
watched.
that. Okay. Okay. So we're just going to continue. We're almost done. After this, we're going to go into our Q&A session. So I hope we're all able to get value from our virtual team video. Let's go to our next topic, which is supporting team member performance. Hi, Favor, please, can you write down your questions and we're going to answer them at the end of the class just so that we're able to manage our time properly. We'll get to all the questions, so please just write down your question. And when we get to the end of the class, we'll put up time for that, and then you can ask all the questions you have. Okay, so support team member performance. We can all attest that supported team members perform better and are way more motivated to do their work than team members who do not feel that they are supported. And so it is important that as a project manager, you have the right strategies to maintain support for all your individuals on the team. You need to ensure that you're doing it for everybody, you're not biased. And you need to be able to use all your power skills. So supporting your team members' performance majorly focuses around emotional intelligence and communication. We cannot overemphasize the importance of communication. So as a project leader, how do you do this? How do you manage your team? How do you lead them? How do you ensure that you are supportive, you support their performance? So teams are typically more productive and driven when they have clear objectives, when they understand, when there's general clarity and shared understanding. And so you as a project manager can support your team members by setting objectives and collaborating with your team. So you do not need to set these objectives by yourself. You can work with your team members to collectively collaborate in setting these objectives. And it's not just enough for you to set these objectives and do the bare minimum, like, okay, we want to build a house. Oh yeah, our objectives now. Let's draw a plan to build this house. No, you need to try to create objectives that are challenging, that are going to push you to do your best and not just give the barest minimum. So, in as much as we want to be superstars, we want to do things that are challenging, we need to also come back to earth and be realistic. So, any objectives you're setting, even though we want to create them to be challenging, we need to ensure that they are attainable. If you want to build a website and you want your customers to have a good experience, it's nice to say that, okay, they should be able to there should be a search feature where they can get things. They should also be able to get recommendations. Not like if you go on Temu and you have looked at one thing, they'll now give you recommendations based off on your history. But then imagine that Temu decided that they want to do a virtual reality whereby once you go on the app, it's like you're in the physical store and you're walking through house, you're doing that. How attainable is that? Of course, it can be done. But is it necessary? Is it a nice to have? Is it a could have? Is it a should have? You know. So when we're doing our setting of objectives, we need to ensure that while we're setting them to be challenging, they need to also be attainable so that when it comes to requirement gathering, we're focusing on the right requirements to implement. And sometimes you and your team can create your objectives at the beginning of the project, or you could decide that for every phase of the project, we're going to create objectives per phase. But the truth is that objectives can actually be created throughout the project because, again, when there are changes or there are updates, you have to be able to update these. And as a PM, you're also a servant leader. So, servant leadership used to be something that was peculiar to Agile, but nowadays, even the predictive project managers are being servant leaders because they've seen that it's something that is useful in every approach. You need to have a clear vision that everybody can see and align with and have that shared understanding. You need to ensure that your stakeholders, your team members who are also key stakeholders for you, are aligned to that vision. They're your domain experts. They're the ones that are going to get the job done. So if they're not aligned to your vision, then there's no way you're going to get the job done. And once there's clarity and understanding of that vision, then it's up to you to continuously motivate your people so that they can get your vision to life. They can bring about impact and change. So, how do we support team member performance? First off, you need to assess your team members. You need to understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what their preferences are, what do they want to do. What skills do they have? What are the weaknesses? How can you help them to improve on these weaknesses? What do you need to piggyback on? What do you need to leverage on that they have? That's where their strengths come in, you know. And there are different types of ways you can do this. In the predictive approach, they usually use both formal and informal assessment methods. As a PM, you should be able to formally assess them. Do you want to do a pre needs assessment or a pre-skills assessment or a gap assessment to understand where they are. If you want to do a SWOT analysis, you could do that, or you could informally assess them. There are some people who are so skilled in this that once they work with you for 1 or 2 days, they observe you, they can understand where you are, to ask you a few questions. They can understand where you are and how to manage you. But once you've been able to conduct these assessments and your team members have started working, at least it gives you a baseline, you know where they are. So you know how to monitor their performance, where to make changes, and how and the places where you feel that they have that's their desired level of performance they've gotten to. So that's what happens in the predictive. But in the adaptive, it's not quite formal because the adaptive team makes use of self-organizing teams, you know. So they are cross-functional teams who are self-organizing. They don't have a leader. Everybody, it's a psychological safe space where everybody trusts that they are working for the common good of the team. So they are able to assess each other and give constructive feedback, which helps the team grow, you know. So that's how assessment happens. And once you're able to assess team members and point out or give them the right feedback on what they're supposed to be working on, what they're supposed to be fixing, and what they should keep up with, then it's easier for you to be able to know how to monitor them, how to motivate them, how to give them what they need to be a better version of themselves and to improve on their performance. So you need to be able to properly assess their performance by using a couple of different tasks. You can compare their performance to the goals of the project. What do I expect of you? I brought you on this project to come and ensure that we increase our visibility as a brand. So what are the metrics? Those need to be set at the beginning. And as they do, you need to be able to measure their performance. You can decide if you want to do it weekly or monthly or quarterly, but it needs to be able to align. So these are the targets we've sent. These are your key performance indicators. What you're doing is your performance aligning with what we expect of you. Based off on that, you're able to make changes or to give them feedback and say, okay, you're not doing so well in this area. This is what you're supposed to be fixing. You know, you should be able to provide proper feedback. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative because it could go either way. It's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. Again, that's where power skills come in. You need to be able to communicate properly, effectively, so that people are not forgetting what you're saying, the truth in what you're saying, and focusing on your tone or the way you said it. So you know how you tell somebody something, and instead of the person listening to you, they're looking at how it was delivered, and it takes away from the whole experience and from everything that you're trying to communicate. That is poor communication because in the end, what you wanted to communicate, you haven't been able to communicate it. You've communicated something else. People need to understand and have clarity on what is expected of them, what their roles are, what their responsibilities are, so that they are able to do exactly what they're supposed to do. Just like me hiring a finance person to come and manage the finances of my project. And then I see you on project site molding blocks. But guys, that's what I brought you to come and do. I didn't bring you to come and mold blocks. But probably because I didn't clearly explain to you what your role was and what your responsibilities are. That's why you think that it's okay for you to go into the field and start molding blocks when you should be giving me a financial projection and looking at my actual versus my budgeted. You you need to also be able to check, why is this person not performing properly? What are the issues? How can I come in to help them? Today, I was working with a team member and she's been complaining that she's overwhelmed. And in my mind, it's not a lot that you're supposed to do. So why are you overwhelmed? If you ask her for something, she'll tell you she's overwhelmed. And yet she's not achieving anything. So I had to call her in and say, please sit down. What is the problem? Because you're not giving me what I want from you. And this is not what we discussed during your interview. So what is the problem? She said, oh, people are just, everybody's asking her for something and she doesn't know which one to respond. So I asked her, do you have a plan for the day? Do you understand how to prioritize? She said, no, she just brought a book and she had written down some stuff. So I'm like, okay, come, I'm going to sit and I'm going to teach you how to do this. And then going forward, you can do that. And by the end of the day, I asked her, have you been able to complete all your tasks? She said, yes. And she was so happy with herself because that's the first time in 2 weeks she's been able to do that. That was because I discovered her unresolved issues and her unknown issues and were able to solve it. And now she can perform better. It's important that you're able to do that as a project manager. For those where you've seen gaps, you need to institute either training or coaching or mentoring. If I see that you have a weakness here, but something that you can build, just need to pair you. Some organizations have body systems where they pair you somebody where you work with the person and you gain the skills and you learn. Some are going to recommend a training for you to do. Organizations have training plans, same as projects. You should be able to say, okay, this month you're going to do this training because it's going to help you. Next month you're going to do this, and so on and so forth. And once people have met their goals, then you need to be able to establish future goals for them so that they can get better. But apart from carrying out assessment, you also need to be able to understand your team members beyond their strengths and their weaknesses. You need to understand their different personalities. And when we talk about personalities, it's not just saying, oh, this person is an extrovert, oh, this person is an introvert. It goes beyond that. But because of time, we're not going to go into dissecting the different measurement tools that you can use to help you understand the personalities of your team. It's something that you can read up on We have a couple of them like Big Five personality model, the Myers-Briggs type indicators, or the DISC. This is something that if you worked in HR, you're going to understand. A lot of HR, a lot of HR personnel use these different personality types, to understand. Sorry, something distracted me. A lot of HRs or people who are in recruitment, they use these different personality indicators to understand who the people they are hiring are, because it helps them to be able to understand the human psyche. Based off on this, you can now understand people's personal attributes, and it helps you to be able to assign them to the right roles. If somebody is extroverted or introverted, or if this person is someone who garners influence, or who can influence other people to do things, there are particular roles that you can give to these people, which helps them to be able to get the job done. You know, so it's easy for you to be able to create proper psychological team roles based off on the results that you have gotten from all these different personality tests and indicators. But before we go into that, it's important that we focus on a couple of do and don'ts when you're carrying out personality indicators or personality tests or psychological tests on your team members. First off, they need to understand and know what you're doing. You cannot go behind their back to do it. And you also need to explain to them the reason why are doing it and ask them the permission. Once you have done that and you have that permission, you go ahead. It's good that you use these results to help you to be able to assign the right rules. But what you shouldn't do is take this as final on people, because people change. And because I behaved in a certain way in this situation doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the kind of person. For example, look at me here talking to you people. I'm sure if I tell any of you on this call that what I would prefer to do is to be under my blanket, not talking to anybody, you're not going to believe. If I tell you I do not like public speaking, you're not going to believe me, because you'll be like, but well, you're addressing us. You're talking here. You're not having any issues. So how comes you're this person who doesn't like all those things? You don't like to be in the limelight and all that. That's why you should not use the results of your personality test as absolutes, because people can change, and what somebody does in a particular situation doesn't necessarily mean that that is how person is. So please do not make fixed assumptions or judgments based on the results that you have gotten. And also, when you do these things, do not share people's personal information or results with anybody except they give you express permission. Do that. It's very important, because that is a breach of their privacy. And nowadays it's everybody's big on privacy. So it's important that you not do that. So you can use the research that you've gotten from all your personality tests, be able to assign the right roles to your team members, to be able to coach your team members. It helps you to understand them better, so you know what to do at every point in time. You know, so imagine that you understand that somebody is very result oriented. On your project, you know what you're going to do. For example, if you're doing a software development or you're building an app or a particular product, if somebody is, you discovered from your test that this person is result oriented, you send the person to product testing, because you know that they want to ensure to get you the right results and to be sure that the product you're churning out is actually the right one. People who are more relationship focused, you can put them in charge of communication, or facilitator, because they like to be around people, they like to talk, they like to communicate. Somebody who is innovative or is a disruptive thinker, you can say, okay, come, because you think in this kind of way, you can develop something. So come and work in software development. At least you can bring us innovative ideas that we can use. So based off on this test that you do, it will help you to be able to assign the right roles to the people within your team. It will also help you to know how to talk to them. If I know that somebody is quiet, introverted, they just like to get their job done, I'm not going to come and be disturbing them, or I'm not going to bring cheese. I'll just come and go straight to the point. We discuss work and we go, because I've understood that this is the kind of person we want. If you're somebody who wants me to talk, laugh, ask about your day, your family before we get into the work, I'm going to indulge you, because that's what a project manager does. You are a glorified babysitter. You need to babysit all the different emotions of your stakeholders on your project so that you can get the results that you need. That is part of your power skills. So let's look at emotional intelligence. Usually, when I'm having my PMP trainings, I ask because I want to hear the different opinions, what people understand emotional intelligence to be. So I'm going to give us 1 minute to write on the chat what they feel emotional intelligence is. Let me just give us 1 minute. Let me just see um the different your different opinions or what you understand by emotional intelligence. Let's do that in 1 minute so that we can have enough time for our Q&A. So let's drop it in the chat. What do you understand by emotional intelligence? I hope we can all still hear me. I'm not talking to myself.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Nelson. I can't see anybody writing in the chat. Okay. Samuel, thank you. Self-awareness of the manager, awareness of other team members. Is there anybody else? How you manage your behaviors and that of others. Thank you, Ne. Understanding one's emotion before reacting. Thank you, John Paul. Cookie, emotional self-awareness. Thank you very much. Okay, while the other people write, okay, Brighton says being able to react appropriately to situations, yes. Vonyararu, sorry, I hope I didn't bother your name, says sensitivity to how other colleagues feel. Okay. Gagaga says how one can socialize with team members. So by the time I combine everything that you all have said, we are all very correct. Emotional intelligence has 5 major components, but in simplest terms, it is you being self-aware emotionally, you understanding your emotions, understanding what can make you angry, what can make you happy, understanding what triggers you. Once you're able to understand yourself, then the next thing is that you're able to self-regulate. If I know that if Nelson calls me shorty, I'm going to get very angry. Once I see Nelson coming, I will run away. Or I'm going to tell him, Nelson, please don't call me shorty because anytime you call me shorty, it pisses me off. And I can't be responsible for how I'm going to react. I start seeing red. So because I understand my triggers, I'm able to manage myself and self-regulate so that I don't start lashing out and affecting other people. That is the first step of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence too is also about how you handle different situations, how you manage other people's emotions, the way they react, the way they communicate. You know, how you are empathetic, how you build relationships, and not only how you build those relationships, but how you maintain those relationships and also how you manage people's emotions and motivate them to live their best selves. The truth is that before you go into looking at other people and their emotional states and managing that and maintaining those relationships you have with them and motivating them, you need to first off understand yourself and regulate yourself. So your management starts from you. If you understand yourself, then you can manage yourself. And once you're able to manage yourself, then it's easier for you to manage other people. This is saying a proverb we used to have when I was small. They'll say, so you want to take out the speck in my eye, first of all, take out the log in your own eye. The log in your eye is you being emotionally self-aware and self-regulating. And once you're able to do that, then it gives you everything that you need to also be able to manage other people, manage their emotions, you know. And how do you manage their emotions? You need to be empathetic. What is empathy? In simplest terms, it's you being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand from their point of view what they are going through. We're not saying through a pity party because a lot of people feel that when they say you should be empathetic, it means that anything that they tell you, because the person said you have put yourself in their shoes and you just take it. No, but being empathetic helps you to make the right decisions, helps you to be able to react to situations properly. Imagine that my mom just died this morning and I came late to work. And then you decide not to listen to me and my side of the story and you just say, cut, her pay for that day because she came late. She's not supposed to come late. It is in the bylaws of the company. If you had taken time to ask me, Loom, why did you come late? And I said, oh, I just lost my mom this morning, so I was destabilized. I had to address that issue, settle that, ensure that she was taken to the mortuary if I came to work. Then, based on that, you can make an informed decision. You're making a decision from a point of data, a data-driven decision. From point of information, you are assessing the situation and making the right decision. That is empathy. So it is part of emotional intelligence. It is actually a very key part of emotional intelligence. So we're not saying anything that somebody says goes, but that you should at least listen and understand and assess it based on if you were in that situation, what would be the best way to handle it. Also, motivation is a key component of emotional intelligence. It's you understanding the people you're working with, understanding what drives them, and ensuring that that drive is at an all-time high at every point in time so that they can give you the results that you need. In my office, I know everybody and what they want. I know the people who, if I buy them suya, they're going to give me the work I want. I know the people who, if I promise them that, okay, tomorrow you can work from home, they will give me the results I want today. Then I have the people where I just need to remove I need to motivate them. So that helps me to get the results that I want. That is part of emotional intelligence. Lastly, the last tenet or component of emotional intelligence is social skills. As a PM, you're supposed to have social skills. It is up to you to be able to build relationships because you have thousands of stakeholders on your project. You need to be able to build relationships with all these different people, even the most difficult people, even the people you do not want to work with because probably you don't like them, they don't like you. But something about work, you don't need to like me to work with me. We just need to be aligned to get the job done. And that is where your social skills comes in as a project manager. You cannot take things personally. So it doesn't end at you building the necessary relationships, but you need to maintain those relationships. Because trust me, 90% of the work you do on a project is managing people, managing their expectations, managing the relationships that you have. It's you being able to influence people to give you the results that you want, to give you the answers that you want. It's you being able to negotiate your way out of things, contracts, negotiate terms with different stakeholders, people who are not your champions, people who are detractors, and all those people. Is you being able to convince people that this black is white so that they can give you the results that you want. So I hope we all have an idea. We've all understood what emotional intelligence is in totality. And you can see an overview of emotional intelligence. It starts from self, or it goes outwards. So you can see the first quadrant says self-recognition. Once you're self-aware, you recognize yourself. Then you can regulate. So you can see from recognition, it goes down to regulation. So you cannot manage what you do not understand. Once you understand yourself, then you can manage yourself. And once you understand and recognize yourself, then it helps you to be able to understand other people. And when you understand other people, then you can manage them. So this is emotional intelligence in a nutshell or an overview. I'm going to give us 30 seconds to read through it, and then we're going to move to the next slide. So this is just an overview of everything that we just discussed about empathy. You can see on the screen, it says it's a part of emotional intelligence, and it's the ability to understand others' viewpoints and be a team player. It enables us to connect with other people and understand what moves them. So you can see inward, it helps you to understand other people, and based off on that understanding, you're able to react properly. And we can see social skills. These are all summaries of what emotional intelligence is all about. See, as a high performing team member, you should be able to communicate, build bonds, collaborate and cooperate, ensure that you're a catalyst for change, manage conflict, influence your team members, and also be a proper leader. Those are all social skills that you should have as a project manager. So let's go into our last topic for the day, which is training, coaching, and mentoring. You are supposed to, first of all, ensure and understand and identify that knowledge management is one of the key things for every project. How do you go about managing knowledge? Proper documentation and archiving is one of those ways we can ensure proper knowledge management and knowledge transfer. But apart from that, key to knowledge transfer and knowledge management is training, coaching, and mentoring. So I'm going to ask again, what do we understand by training, coaching, and mentoring? I'll just give us 1 minute to type it out in the chat. 1 minute. Okay. So some Raro says capacity development. Theophil says knowledge sharing. Hazard says duration. Favor says guiding. Antonia says training is knowledge sharing, capacity building. John Paul says empowering others with knowledge of what we know. Yeah. Ofumbe says training. Antonia says coaching and mentoring is influencing, motivating, and guiding. Thank you all very much for your contributions. So let's quickly look at what training, coaching, and mentoring are. These are three activities that are related to knowledge sharing. And as a project management professional, you need to engage all these three activities at different points in your career. For training, training provides specialized skills. So it helps you to build skills. It could be you as an individual or your team. And training could either be formal or informal. So training is actually explicit knowledge transfer. Explicit knowledge transfer means that you are dealing with knowledge that can be codified, knowledge that can be written down, can be showed in symbols or in diagrams that people can go to a book, read up on it, and build a skill. It could be soft skills, it could be technical skills, and training could be in different forms. It could be formal, informal, it could be instructor-led, like what is happening now. It could be self-paced, where you're studying on your own. There are different forms of training. But when we go to coaching, coaching is more about different opportunities that can be done between a more experienced person and a less experienced person. And this comes when you're trying to transfer knowledge that is tacit. So tacit knowledge is knowledge that you cannot read from a book and gain it. Yes, you cannot read it. For example, if you're versed with Nigerian stuff or you watch Nollywood, they'll tell you this person went to Babalawo or native doctor to go and do. Have you ever seen any school where they train native doctors or babalawos? No. Or witch doctors? Have you ever seen any place where they train witchcraft? Oh, I think it's only in Harry Potter, and that doesn't exist in Africa. So for you to learn that, you need to go to the shrine where the witch doctor is there, and is going to coach you into witchery or whatever it is. That's tacit knowledge transfer. That's how coaching works. It helps put knowledge into practice, and it happens over extended periods of time between somebody who is more experienced and somebody who is less experienced. And then we have the final one, which is mentoring. So a lot of times people confuse coaching for mentoring, but they're not the same thing. Mentoring is more of a long-term relationship between two people. Of course, a more experienced person who is the mentor and a less experienced person who is the mentee. And the whole aim of mentoring is to transfer not only skill sets, but knowledge from the mentor to the mentee. Most of the time, Mentor-mentee relationships are godlike relationships because the mentee looks up to the mentor, asks them for their opinion on everything. Sometimes you even see them dressing like their mentors. There's this guy, he says Tony Elumelu is his mentor. If you see him, he's always putting on red socks, red ties. He always dresses like Tony. So it's like a godlike relationship. They cannot see anything wrong with what their mentor is doing. And it is a deeper relationship than coaching. So you need to be careful when you are choosing a mentor. Those are the differences between training, coaching, and mentoring. And as we've mentioned, these are all forms of knowledge sharing. And on a project, every team member is supposed to be able to learn from each other. They should be able to gain knowledge. Knowledge should be able to transfer because that is their stake. That's what they want to get from the project. Most of the time, they want to build skills and get better, build their capacity. Everybody on a project learns, even your other stakeholders, apart from your internal stakeholders, you have external stakeholders. They too learn and they too can also be a source of knowledge. So you can also use them in ensuring knowledge transfer. You can use them as coaches, you can use them as mentors, you can use them as part of the effort to ensure that there's continuous improvement on every project. So this is a summary of training, coaching, and mentoring. I'm going to give us 1 minute to be able to read through it, and then we're going to go to the next slide. So how do you ensure that there's proper training and mentoring and coaching on your projects? You can't just start saying you go and do a backend development, go and be a full stack developer, go and do this course, go and do this digital marketing course. How do you know that that's what I need? So you need to plan for training. Once you have assessed your team members and understood, you've done your SWOT analysis and you've also carried out a proper gap as analysis and a needs assessment, then it is clear that you understand what everybody needs. The people who need soft skill training, the people who need technical trainings, the people who just need to have a coach. They have the skills, but what they need is practical knowledge. Meanwhile, you see the ones who need mentors. Once you're able to understand where everybody is at, then you're able to assign the different knowledge transfer um, aspects to them. So for those who are supposed to do training, you're able to have a proper training schedule with a proper training plan for the different courses when they're going to take place, and the number of people who are going to attend and all that training materials prepared and all that. For those who need coaching, you're able to pair them with their different coaches and give them a period of time and their goals that they should be able to achieve at the end of that coaching cycle. And same thing for mentorship. So you could also, when you're doing your training or planning for it, you could also single out the people who need more of certification trainings. You can see on my screen, there are different, like for this class we're doing now, there are a couple of different trainings we're supposed to do. You can do CAPM, you can do PMP. That's the reason why all of you are here. After that, where do you want to go to? Is it PGMP? Is it PFMP? Is it PMI ACP? So you're able to outline all those different courses. Do a benefits analysis and say, okay, is it better for us to hire somebody who already has these skills, or is it better for us to train our staff where we keep the knowledge in-house and it helps us to reduce the cost of using external people? So once you're able to do a proper cost benefit analysis, then it's easier for you to be able to plan for proper training. And remember, training, coaching, mentoring doesn't end just with your internal project team, but even your stakeholders, it's something that you can extend to them. Even if you're not training them, you could also use them as a source of coaching or mentoring or source of knowledge. So that brings us to the end of this session. I hope we all had a wonderful time. We're going to go into our Q&A session, and when we're done with it, then we could take individual questions if we have any individual questions. Nelson, please kindly confirm that we're good on time and we can go into our Q&A session.
Yes, we are. We have about 45 minutes remaining. So yeah.
Okay. So I hope we all got value from our training today, from the class today. We're going to go into the Q&A session. Maybe we could unmute them now, Nelson, so that once we ask, we could go around to answer the questions, or people could put up their hands and answer the questions. Or I could just call people
Yes,
to put up to answer.
I'm doing the unmuting now so that it's easier.
Okay. Meanwhile, it looks like Ofumbe Igwe has a question. Before Nelson unmutes, maybe you might just want to type out your question in the chat.
You can unmute.
Oh, okay. So, Ofumbe, you can unmute. Okay. I don't think he's there right now, but let's just go into the practice questions, the sample questions, and then when we're done, we're going to take individual questions. So let's start with the first sample question. Question 1. A recently formed Agile team is exhausted after working 12-hour days to fulfill sprint commitments. Who has not properly performed their duties in this situation? A, project manager. B, team members. C, product owners. D, scrum master. Okay, so the first name I see is Irene. Okay, yeah, we can put it on the chat. I can see A, I can see D, I can see Funke says A. A lot of people are saying A and D. A and D, D, D. Favor says D, Theophil says D. James A, Gagaga C, Igwe A. John Paul says A. Okay, John Paul, why is your answer changing? Oh, Funke says A. Okay, so let's see what the answer is. Our answer is D, Scrum Master. So it is the Scrum Master's role to ensure that the team has the right working conditions. That includes the workload. Yes, the team is good, the domain expert, and when they are planning the work together, especially for that particular sprint, before anything goes into the sprint backlog, they sit with the product owner and they tell him that, okay, for this sprint, this is the amount of work we will be able to do. However, the Scrum Master is supposed to ensure that they have the right working conditions, they have the right resources, they have everything that they need to be able to achieve their goal and get that job done. Because if they don't do it, it means they had impediments that stop them from being able to achieve their results. So the answer is D. Again, remember, it said a recently formed agile team. So in case these people, it's their first time to work on an agile team, it was also the job of the Scrum Master to be able to coach them properly on how agile teams work, what is expected of them, and what they're supposed to do when it comes to creating their workload. So again, it is a tip for you in your exams. Once you see a recently formed agile team and then you see all these results, you can't be choosing A because what they have explicitly told you that it's an agile team. So you'll be looking at more of Scrum Master. So let's go to question 2. A project has the following characteristics. A functional manager is also a project stakeholder. The functional manager has time constraints and dedicates project responsibilities to someone else on the functional team. This person becomes a new stakeholder. The new stakeholder is not attending meetings. How should the project manager engage this new stakeholder? A, Examine the stakeholder engagement plan with the new stakeholder and assess their level of engagement. B, present the project schedule and the specific assigned tasks to the new stakeholder. C, request that the functional manager brief this new stakeholder and ask that they send them to all relevant meetings. D, ask the new stakeholder to pair with more experienced stakeholders to learn responsibilities. So what is our answer? Okay, you can see a lot of A's, A, A, A. Everybody says A. So let's see our answer. Yes, A is the correct answer. Because we all know that the first step of stakeholder engagement is once you have identified your stakeholders, you need to determine their level of engagement. What is their current level of engagement? That's the only way you can ensure that they are at your desired level of engagement. So of course, the answer is for you to examine your stakeholder engagement plan and assess their level of engagement. So once you know their current level of engagement, then it's going to help you to be able to get them to their desired level of engagement. Question 3. In an organization, some people work longer days in a 4-day week, while others work standard days 5 days per week. On the project, a mix of these schedules has caused some scheduling problems, particularly for stand-ups and iteration demos. Which approach should the team take? A, require the team members who work 4-day weeks to attend the stand-up on day 5. B, self-organize and solve this scheduling problem. C, suggest that everyone on the team use the same work week during this project. And D, ask the PMO for advice. So let's get our responses. Okay. You can see B, B, B. Okay. Okay, so let's look at our answer. Our answer is B. As we mentioned when we're talking, most agile teams are self-organizing teams and they don't have or they don't need a leader to come and solve their problems for them or tell them what to do or what not to do. They are able to come to an agreement together and agree and decide that, okay, this is how we're going to manage whatever situation or problem we have found ourselves in. Question 4. Virtual team member has recently joined a co-located team. Despite being highly qualified, the team's performance is constantly questioned and ridiculed by the co-located team members. Which approach should the team lead take? A, use the team charter to address collaboration and team goals. B, cancel the virtual team members' contract. Clearly, the team is not cohesive. C, organize a weekly virtual co-working session led by a facilitator. And D, monitor the situation and intervene only if the virtual team member makes a report to HR. So let's have our answers. Okay, I can see a lot of A's. A, A, A. Okay, so let's go and check what our right answer is. Exactly. That's the whole idea of having a team charter because it has all our ground rules, what we're supposed to do as a team. So team needs to come together, especially because they're an agile team, and ensure that they manage the situation, stop the bullying. There are also laws or ground rules that speak to bullying, that speak to how you engage as team members. So this is something that we can do. Speak on collaboration as a team member and remind everybody of the common goals and our focus or our drive as a team. Question 5. An international bank is performing a merger as part of a major program change and hired a consulting company to perform an advisory role during the merger. The consultants recommend using Agile to ensure the best chance of success. What do the consultants mean by this? They need to work quickly. B. Use of agile practices to complete financial measures is a best practice. C. Adopting the agile mindset helps organizations navigate complexity. And D. The measure should be completed in increments. I can see a lot of C's. I can see a lone D from Brighton. Okay. A lot of C's. So let's check our answer. Answer is C. Agile practices are helpful in increments and rapid development. So, question 6. Before the next iteration begins. Project team B meets about an unexpected challenge which threatens to delay the current phase. The task in the next iteration cannot be completed because of this challenge. Another team within the project is depending on timely completion of task 1 in order to fulfill their work. How should the project manager resolve this issue? A. Meet with both teams separately and ask them to figure out a way to meet the required deadlines and complete the project on time. B. Meet with the product owner to prioritize the iteration backlog so that it does not impact other teams and obligations. C. Increase the number of team members for the project team and increase the iteration length, ensuring that the work will be completed according to schedule. D. Let team members know you want them to do their best under difficult circumstances and make sure to know the iterations challenges in the next retrospective. Okay, so while we answer that one, Na says, why not D? So the answer there is not D, not because D is not correct. But again, this is another tip for your exams. Sometimes you are asked a question and most of the answers they are correct. But what PMI wants from you is the most correct answer. So in that question, D seemed correct, or it had some correctness to it. But the most correct answer on that question was C. So in that case, you're going to choose the most correct answer, which was C and not D. I hope that's helpful for you. Meanwhile, we're getting a lot of B's and A's, a lot of B's and A's. So let's see if let's check our answer. Two. I think the rationale is self-explanatory. I don't need to explain that. Let's look at question 7. During a meeting, you pay close attention to the emotions of yourself and others as the discussion gets heated. Which interpersonal skill are you leveraging? It should be easy. Okay, you can see a lot of A's. I see a lot of A's. Okay, so let's go and see our answer. Emotional intelligence. We've already said that it's not just about other people's emotions, but also about your emotions. It starts from you and then it goes outwards. So, a long-standing key team member in a virtual team has been unmotivated for weeks after the death of a family member. Because of this, several project activities are behind schedule, impacting the project's critical path. How should the project manager handle this situation? Replace the team member. B, discuss the situation with the team member and work with them to identify a workable solution. C, escalate the situation as an HR issue and ask other team members to work overtime. D, ask the functional manager for additional support on the project, including assignment of a new resource. Let's get your answers. Okay, you can see a lot of B's, a lot of B's. A lot of B's. I can see a D. So let's look at our answer. The answer is B. We spoke about servant leadership, and I even gave an example of the lady in my office who was having issues. You don't start by asking for a replacement or escalating to HR. You, as the leader, what have you done? Have you been empathetic? Have you understood their situation? Have you tried to fix it? The decision you're making to replace them or to send them out, or ask for an additional resource, what is it based on? Is it based on information? What is it, data driven, or are you just not in the mood to have that dead leg on you, so you're deciding to move on? So it's important that you discuss the situation with the team member and work with them to identify a way forward. So next question. Project D is working virtually because of a recent natural disaster. Several activities are delayed because a project team member has not been working for the past week. This impacts the critical path. How should the project manager respond to this problem? A, obtain a new resource to complete the needed task until you can speak to the team member directly. B, discuss the situation with the team member's functional manager and enable them to manage the team member. C, remind the team member about responsibility and accountability. And D, ask a team member who knows this person well to try and find out the missing team member and report back. So let's get our answers. Okay, I can see a lot of B's, B's, B's. I can see some A's. Okay. Yeah, I can see a D from Titi Lola. Can see another D from Ernest. Favor said C, Felix B, Theophil D, B and A is okay. We have a split parliament in this one. So let's see our answer. The answer is A. Obtain a new resource to complete the needed task until you can speak to the team member directly. So we're not saying we're not going to speak to the team member, but several activities are delayed, and this will impact our critical part. We always need to have focus on our bottom line, which is to achieve our result. And you understand that the critical part is very important. So while we want to be empathetic and understand what the issue is, we need to solve the problem of the delay, which is us getting a new resource to manage and complete those tasks until we're able to do a proper investigation and understand what the situation is with our team member, then we can move forward from there. So question 9, leaders of a high performing teams dash team member skills and knowledge and keep team members dash throughout the project. Again, another tip you should have for your exams is that once you have a question that has 2 answers, you need to be able to answer them correctly. Because if you pass one and you fail one, then you'll fail the whole question. So if you see a question that says choose 2 or choose 3, you need to make sure that the 3 you're choosing or the 2 you're choosing are all correct. So let's get our answers. A, see a lot of A's. We're seeing a lot of A's. Okay. So let's see our answer. A. Leaders of high-performing project teams nurture team member skills and knowledge and keep team members motivated throughout the project. A co-located agile team is updating the ground rules based on the last iteration and retrospective. Which option should be excluded from the new ground rules? Tell the truth and address any issue to the correct party at the right time. B. There shall be no email or surfing the web during team meetings and be present on site between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. C. It's for clarification if you're confused and do not interrupt one another. And D. There shall be no swearing during team meetings and participation in chess club on Monday evenings is mandatory. So what is the right answer? Let's get your answers. Okay, Titi says B. Joseph says D. Beru, says B. Jane says A. John Paul says D. Gagaga says B. Paulina D. Brighton B. Soliwell C. Sally D. Okay, so let's get that answer. The answer is D. So we can see the rationale. Politeness and attendance at leisure activities are typically not part of the ground rules. It doesn't, the going to chess club on Monday doesn't have anything to do with ground rules. You can do whatever you want. Again, even if somebody didn't know the answer, there's a trick or a technique called elimination. So in this kind of situation, you can look at all the right answers, all the ones that are correct, and use the method of elimination to get your correct answer. So it's one of those questions where you can use the technique of elimination. It's going to come in very handy when you're writing your exams. Project team is completing a sprint. The team normally performs well under time pressure, but this time something seems different. The workrooms are quiet and people are having conversations that seem secretive. A check of the Scrum board shows that work is on schedule and quality checks are met, yet the team lead feels anxious. What should the team lead do? A. Assume everything is fine and let the team continue working. B. Think about any other recent changes or reasons that could be the cause of these anxious feelings. C. Ask everyone to give a quick report of how they think the sprint is going at the next stand-up. And D. Tell the team you are feeling anxious about their work. So what's the right answer here? Let's have our answers. The screen. Okay, seen a lot of B's, C's. We've seen a D, Samuel, C from Jane, B from Soliwell, C from Taff, E from Sally, C, B, C. Okay. Okay. So we have a tie between B and C. Let's see. So you can see our answer is B. So before you go ahead to start acting crazy, you need to first of all ask yourself, is there any reason why I could be feeling anxious? Do an introspection. Go back. Walk backwards and find out, is there any reason why I should be anxious? You know, if your data is showing that everything is on, then but you're still feeling anxious. As a project manager, you need to have good instincts, so you need to trust your instincts and then do a review on your own. And if you do not get anything, then you can go ahead to say, okay, the same way I want my team to be psychologically safe and speak to me, I can also speak to them based off on this, and you'll be able to get an answer. So sample question 12. The team lead is having a coaching session with a team member. Let's read the scenario and answer the question. Lead, we've noticed that your work is a few days late again. It is. I took extra time to fine-tune settings before handing off to the release team. Okay, we've been through this for the last 4 sprints and we need to resolve it. That's sprint 2. You blamed a faulty technical setup for the delay, but we found out that that was not accurate. Do you think you can give us more realistic estimates next time? Yes, I was wrong. I thought I was giving realistic estimates, but I realized that after 3 sprints, my method must be flawed. Do you want to do a planning session together so we can figure out a better way? Yes, that will be helpful. I know that my delay is causing stress on the team. Thanks. Which two steps in emotional intelligence has this team member just realized? Choose two. A, self-control. B, self-discovery. C, self-assessment. D, self-definition. And E, self-management. So let's get the answers. You need to choose two. A and C, A and C, A and C. Okay. A and C, A and E. Okay. A and C. Well, C and E. Sally says C and E. Soliwe says C and E. Gaga says A and E. Theophil says C and E. Cookie says C and A. Okay, so let's check her answers. So Sally, Soliwe, and the rest, you are correct. The answers are C and E. For the fact that the team members said they realized, that shows that they have assessed themselves and they have found themselves wanting. So that is self-assessment. There was no need for self-control for those who say A because they were not fighting with anybody. They were having a civil discussion and this person owned up to their mistake. So they were able to assess themselves and realize that there might be an issue, as well as also taking responsibility for the error and accepting that they should have a session where they could discuss together. So our answers are C, self-assessment, and E, self-management. So this is our final question. A large project team for a major annual event is reforming with all the same team members. To prepare for the preliminary meeting with the team, the newly assigned project manager reviews the lessons learned repository and sees this highlighted comment. Team members were distracted at the live matches. The team leads were ineffective at redirecting team member effort. How should the project manager approach this situation? A, replace the team leads from the previous year with stronger, experienced team leads. B, coach the team members from the previous year about professionalism in live matches. C, establish clearer ground rules with the team and the team lead, including disciplinary action for breaches. And D, implement the appropriate behavior guidelines and penalties for team members at live matches. So let's get our answers coming. Okay. So the US says A, John says C, Favor C, Felix B, Ls B. I see a lot of C's too, C's and B's. Okay, so let's look at our answer. And our answer is C, the C's have it. So establish clearer ground rules with the team and team leads, including disciplinary action for breaches. It's about ground rules for the whole team every time of the project, not just at live matches. So we need to look at the root cause. It's not just because it was a live match, but the root cause is that they are unruly. And so we need to put more clarity. We need to reinforce the ground rules. We need to put more clarity. And also we need to get the team to understand that there will be consequences for their action. So part of the things that are part of our ground rules is how we manage issues, problem solve, and also disciplinary action. What disciplinary action are we going to met out if somebody does not follow the rules or if somebody does something only? Those are also stuff that are part of our ground rules. So that makes our answer C. So well done, everybody who participated. For you who had the right answers, well done, well done, well done. I think we still have about 10 minutes or so. So if we have, I'm going to take about 2 or 3 questions. If we have any particular questions, now it's the time for us to raise our hands and ask. Okay, yes, James, let's have you. I can see NBF, that's the second.
Okay, good evening. Thanks very much. I really appreciate, and I think the class is very educative. My question is that I'll be writing this exam by next week. So I just wanted to know how it will look like, just like it's a brief experience. How is this exam going to look like? I mean, getting to the hall and all the rest things. So just to yeah, just to have some in-depth knowledge and then also
Okay,
manage the environmental situation. Yeah, thank you.
all right, thank you, James. Are you writing at the center or are you writing at home?
Yeah, I'm writing at a center.
Okay, so that's good for you. I usually advise everybody in Africa to write at the center because we all know our internet is erratic. So you can go to a Pearson View Center and write. Please make sure that you're there at least 30 minutes before time. So if your slot you use when scheduling was 8:30, make sure you're there at 8 o'clock because you will need to be checked. You're going to go through a couple of things before you actually sit to start your exam. So if you chose 8:30 and you get to the center at 8:30, that means you're late. So you need to be there at least 30 minutes before time. So your exams is going to run for almost 4 hours, 230 minutes at 230 minutes, I think. So that's almost 4 hours. You're going to have 180 questions. 5 of those questions are test questions. So you're not going to be scored on them. That's something that PMI does because they want to get feedback. It's kind of like research. So you're going to have 180 questions and you will not know which 5 of them are not scored. So in essence, you're going to be scored on 175 questions. You're going to have 3 sessions, 60 minutes, the first 60 questions, the next 60 questions, and the last 60 questions. And you have 2 breaks. So after your first 60 questions, you can opt to take your first break, which is a 10-minute break. I usually advise that you take it because this exam is very intense. So just take the break. You don't need to take all the 10 minutes. You can at least take 5 minutes or 6 minutes. Just go wash your face, take some air. You could drink something and come back. Just clear your mind, come back and settle in. Immediately you come back, your time starts counting. You get into the next 60 questions. If you do not take your 10 minutes break and you go into the next 60, that means you have forfeited that break and you're not going to have it again. Once you get into the next 60 and you're done, then you have another break. You could take it or you could leave it. Again, I'll advise you take it just so that because it's quite long and intense, you don't want to get fuzzy or lightheaded because you've been sitting in the same place. Once you're done, you get into your last stretch and you finish. I will advise that you do not spend more than 45 seconds on a question. You can keep some questions in view. You know those questions where you try to answer them, but you're not really sure? You could choose an answer and keep it in view and always come back to review it before you submit. But try as much as possible not to spend more than 45 seconds on the question. If it is, as we'll say in Nigeria, bad as it bad, 1 minute and you move on. If not, you will not be able to finish that exams on time. In as much as we ask you to study, have your knowledge base, product knowledge so that you can answer, I've been dropping tips throughout this class. I've been telling you there are different ways you can answer the questions. You can use elimination methods. And please, I hope that you have been doing a lot of past questions. PMI does not repeat their questions. So don't be fooled. Their questions are not going to repeat. But at least what happens when you do past questions is that it makes you to be familiar with the style of questioning, how the questions will come. So it's easy for you to read and comprehend them and be able to answer so you can finish in time. A lot of times people fail these exams not because they do not know or because the exams is hard, but just because they're not able to manage their time properly. You need to be able to manage your time properly. So those are some things that you can take away from here. I don't know if you have any other questions. I don't know if I was able to touch everything, but please do take and also follow the exam content outline. So when you're doing your questions, follow them because questions should come based off on the exam content outline. So if you're able to follow your exam content outline, then you know that you've been able to revise everything that will come in your exams. Because even if you attend a PM prep training, Not everything that is taught in class actually comes in your exam, but you're sure that everything on your exam content outline is going to come in your exam. So when you're studying, try to make use of your exam content outline. I hope that was helpful, James.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. Thanks very much.
I'm also aware that PMI has been giving like free access to study hall, so you could use study hall to be able to do like your revision. So you could start with the short ones, the 20 questions, and then by the time you have like 3 or 4 days to go to your exams, you could do 175 session in the morning and one in the evening, one in the morning and one in the evening. I will advise that on the night before you're writing your exams, do not study, because trust me, there's nothing that's going to enter your head. Try to rest and just remember everything that you have studied so that you're fresh in the morning, you get in and you write your exams. I wish you all the best. Good luck.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so you're welcome. We're going to take from NBF and then we're going to take the last one from Igwe.
Yes, hi, madam. Thank you very much. I'm
Hello.
Nehemiah and I call you. I'm Nehemiah and I call you from Liberia. So there
Okay.
was a question that you asked, especially it was an agile question, and it has
Okay.
responses that had two characteristics of an agile. One was it being complex, and the other one was incremental. And then you stated that it is not always the best answer. You should choose one. So how do you rank which one to choose? Because both are characteristics of agile. And you said that the one for the complex was the one that was correct. How do you rank if both share the same characteristics of the concept that is being tested?
So I'm trying to look for a practical example that can help you to understand that. Okay, so let me give you an example. Imagine that you're quarreling with your wife. Hmm? You have a blowout with your wife, you have a problem with your wife. And we look at the different ways in which you would have responded to that. One of them was to have not just said anything to her and just ignored it because you don't want to get into an argument. You weigh the pros and the cons and you're like, okay, argument, it's not really worth it. So it's something I can actually ignore. And then there was also the option of you actually finding out what the issue was. Please, can you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself, Jacqueline? Okay. There was also the option of you actually finding out what made your wife react in that way so that you could know how to properly address the situation. And then there was also the idea of you coming to say, okay, my darling wife, this is what happened. I heard what happened. I'm really not happy about it. I think we should talk about it. So I'm going to give you some time when you're in the right frame of mind. You can come and let's discuss this so that we can solve it because I don't want us to get into another day with this issue. I've given you 3 different answers to how you would have solved that problem with your wife to avoid an altercation. Yeah, all of them are correct. But which is most correct? How do you know that one of them is most correct? You assess it and you find out which is going to give me the best result, which is going to make more sense. So when you study agile, there are a lot of things that are taught on the agile. There are a lot of different characteristics, and there are some that take precedence. There's something that you call root cause. There's an explanation that I gave on another question why I said that, yes, this could also be the answer, but it's not about, okay, the one about ground rules where we said we could give more clarity on the ground rules and disciplinary action. And then there was one where we said we could ensure that they have clarity on the ground rules during live sessions. The issue happens during the live session. Solving that issue during the live session is okay. But then what happens to every other time if they decide to misbehave? What are you going to do? So even though we've solved the issue during the live session, that's not the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem is that these people are just unruly people and they're not following their ground rules. So we need to ensure that everybody is aware and knows what the ground rules are and what um the the consequence is going to be if they do not follow it. That solves an overall problem. It doesn't only solve the problem of the live sessions, but it solves the problem of if this comes up any other time, then we know that this is how it's going to be managed. So in that situation, you can see that even though those two answers were correct, one was more correct or one was better than that one. So I don't know if you're getting the point I'm trying to make, but there's a way that if you read through all the questions, you will know which one is actually the better answer. That if you use that, it sorts out every aspect of the question or the concept that we're trying to address. I don't know if that makes sense or if that was helpful for you. Hi, NBF. Are you still there?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
So I hope that was helpful for you. So I don't
Okay,
know.
thank you,
I can't
thank
see
you.
Igwe's. You're welcome. I can't see Igwe's hand up again. I don't think he's in class anymore. But yeah, I think we've come to the end of the training. Thank you so much, everybody, for making our time to be here. And for all those who are taking their exams soon, I wish you all the best. I wish you good luck in your exams, and I hope that we all make it in flying colors. I'm waiting for you to be my learned colleagues in the field of project management. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. We could connect and share ideas. Don't mind because I'm teaching you now. It doesn't mean that I know everything about project management. There's always room to learn more. So I look forward to connecting on you all on LinkedIn, and go succeed in your exams and let's win. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Nelson, and see you
Thank you.
during our next session.
Thank you so much, Lum. This was very insightful. I know you love this topic a lot, so yeah.
One of
So
them.
yeah, I can attest. I know that the candidates also really enjoyed the session and the questions as well, the discussions. So thank you so much for this dedicating this time to just be here. And to the candidates, thank you once again for showing up. Let's keep engaging, keep connecting on the WhatsApp group. Reach out to Loom on LinkedIn. If you can share your contacts as well on the chat, she has shared the link. You can reach out to her directly, talk to her there. If you need any more interactions with her, or if you need to ask any more questions, she should be able to assist. So thank you so much. We will share this recording tomorrow so that you can review anything that you missed, and we'll catch up again. We have more sessions next week. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, good night, wherever you are.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Can you please share with us your LinkedIn? They have Nelson shared it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's on the chat now. I've shared it again.